Hello, this is David Ward with another Blender cookie tutorial. As I promised in the rigging tutorial, I'm going to show you some things called action constraints, and they're pretty handy. So without further ado, let's jump in. Grab one of the pieces of the mesh. As you can see, I went ahead and added the facial rig, and also recorded a little tip on how to do that. So make sure you take time to watch that if you're interested in knowing how to combine two separate rigs. Anyways, so I'll grab one of my bones and see me moving around, and let's hit A to select all of them. Alt G clears out the poses. Alt R clears out the rotations, and if there's any scaling, Alt S clears out scaling, but we didn't have any scaling. So anyways, let's go into edit mode, and what I want to do is create a bone that's going to control the curl of the fingers. So let's actually, you know what? It's called an action constraint, and I'm going to show you why it's an action constraint. So let's go into this right here. You can choose what kind of setup you want, what kind of interface. I'm going to go to animation, and it kind of pops it into a nice pre-set up animation. You got your dope sheet over here, and your timeline, and the IPO curves. IPO, by the way, stands for well, I looked it up the other day, but I don't remember. Interpolation. I for IPO, I interpolation, PO for polation, and IPO interpolation. Anyways, but I'm not gonna use that. I'm going to use the action editor. Let's make that a little bit bigger, and I'm going to grab all the bones in the hand, and you know what? Let's do it on both hands. I don't need to. I can just copy the pose there with these controls right here. Okay, let's go back all the way back to frame 1. Let's zoom in here, because we don't need that many frames for this. And let's add a new action, and we're going to call it hand curl. And what we're going to do is going to hit I on your keyboard, and we're going to hit go down to location, rotation, scale, lock, rot, scale, and that adds a key. Just scroll up here. It adds a keyframe for all of these bones that you have selected, which honestly, you know, let's do. If you just mouse over and hit delete, it deletes all your keys and all the bones that it had. I actually don't need these top bones selected, because those are going to be doing something else. So now, just get the tips of them, location, rotation, scale. And right there on frame 1, it puts a keyframe of the blank empty pose. So let's go up a few frames, scrolling all the way. Let's go up, you know what, just go to frame 2. And we're going to grab these tips of these bones. Excuse me, let's turn on the gimbal here for the rotation. Make sure you're going to be in normal view there, and let's rotate that on the red axis there, which is the, I assume it's the x-axis. I can't really tell. There's no indication. Anyways, let's rotate this one as well. Okay, and this one also. And you know what? Since the thumb has 3 different segments, let's go back to frame 1, and let's add another keyframe for that one also. Okay, so now up to frame 2. I moved those, and it didn't do it because I forgot to turn on the automatic keyframe insertion. So there we go. Since we already got this one selected, let's go ahead and rotate that like so. Maybe this one not quite so much. Okay. And let's go ahead and rotate these again to where they're, oops, closed up some. Okay, I'm trying to rotate around. It's not one more. Okay, there's a user preference you can turn on and off here, I believe. Control U. Nope. Shift U. Something brings up Alt U. Alt U. No, I'm trying to bring up the user preferences. Control Alt U. There it is. And you can the continuous grab. That's what controls like this location around the gimbal there. So now I can do what I want. As long as you don't click on the gimbal itself, you can move around without accidentally grabbing something. Remember, I found it really frustrating once before because it did that, but yeah, you can turn it off right there. Piece of cake. Okay, so let's grab this one, rotate that. Okay, now over here, back in the action editor, let's hit A to deselect everything, B, and let's mouse over and select all these keys at frame 1, Shift D to duplicate them, and we're going to bring them up to frame 3. So now we got blank pose, curled pose, blank pose. And now we need to go extreme pose. So, like say he's poking something, his fingertip's going to roll up, like so. So that's what we're going to put on here. Okay, and let's do the thumb as well. Okay. So now it's a nice extreme pose, so you can poke something with his finger and it'll kind of go backwards nicely. So before we get any further, let's go back to frame 1. Select all of these guys. It's going to let me select them all. Okay, guess I'll have to do it manually. Oops. Do it manually. Let's grab all these guys that we moved, and let's copy the current pose and paste opposite. And you can see it went ahead and put the other from the well, thought that turning off that thing would work, but anyways, it went ahead and put the same pose on the other hand. So, and we're on frame 0. We don't want that. Let's grab these and move them up to frame 1. There we go. Okay, the same thing on frame 2, since we already got these bent. Copy, paste, and you can see it went ahead and applied it, and went ahead and added keyframes. And copy, paste, paste opposite. Make sure you're doing the one furthest to the right. And finally, the last one, copy and paste. So now we got the extreme poses and the curl poses for both hands in the same action. It's called hand curl. So before we go any further, let's go ahead and delete that. Or not, we're not deleting it, we're just clearing it out of the window. It's still there, don't worry. But now we need to select everything, clear out rotations. Oops. Gotta make sure you turn this automatic keyframe off now. So now Alt-R. Okay. Now let's pop back to the default setup here. And now we'll go into edit mode and add these bones like I was going to earlier. So let's get this finger here lined up perfectly straight. Now we're going to Shift D to duplicate it. And now let's scale it down some so we can see a difference. And grab the tip of it and move it up to about the tip of the other one. We don't want to move it though. We don't want to rotate it on an accident. It needs to be lined up perfectly with the beginning bone. And let's go ahead and rename it. Hit N to bring up your properties. And instead of Fing Index S.L, we're going to name this Fing Index C. Let's just C will be fine for control. And let's go get rid of that 001. Okay. So let's do the same thing on this pinky bone here. Line that up in the view perfectly. Shift D. Alt S to scale it down some. Grab the tip of it. Oops, wrong tip. There we go. And let's move it out. Make sure you're lined up right in here. You can move it around. You can see it lining up there. Okay. Still lined up good. Alright. And now let's do the thumb. Actually, let's rename that one real quick. Number C instead of S, and then delete the numbers. There we go. And now the thumb. Okay, line it up. Shift D. Alt S to scale. Grab the tip of it. Oops, wrong one. Might have to double click to get the right one. Scale that up. Okay. And rename this one to C. And get rid of those. Okay. Now, in order to not have to do that again over here, so we can have perfectly symmetrical, let's do the same thing we did when we were creating the rig. Grab those guys. And let's make sure our 3D cursor is lined up directly center. And now I'll go right here. click and hold, and we want the pivot to be around the 3D cursor. So now we'll Shift D to duplicate those guys. Scale along the x-axis, -1, and I'll pop those right over there exactly where they need to be. And now armature, flip names, boom, all done. However, as you can see, the relationship lines, they're still parented to the left hand. So since they're selected already, let's go ahead and parent them to the right hand. Actually, that's the IK ones. There we go. And keep the offset. Okay. So I think we're all good. Right, grab the hand, move it around. Yep. And move it around. Good. Let's go ahead and make sure we turn that 3D cursor off, back to median point. Okay. So now, before we get into the action constraints, let's do something real quick. Grab the bigger bone at the beginning and Shift select that. Control Shift C, bring up your constraint menu, and we want to copy the location. Control Shift C again, copy the rotation. You can see why I left it where I made sure it was lined up perfectly. So so it didn't move around when you lined it up with the controller bone there. Same thing here. Grab that one first, and then that one. Control Shift C, copy location. Again, copy rotation, and again on the thumb. Grab that one first. Control Shift C, copy location. Very repetitive. One thing that I haven't found, and I researched, I haven't found online. Looks like we got a roll angle that we need to fix right there. Let's go into edit mode. Is what's it's in 2.49 and below. Make sure I grab the right bones here. Okay, and let's turn on the x-axis mirror just for that. Control R. Pop it right into place. Turn it back off. Okay, now it's lined up perfectly. Okay, it's a way to copy constraints from one thing to another. Now, like I said, it's in 2.49 and below, but I haven't seen it yet in 2.5. I guess they're still working on it. Right now it's January 13th, so perhaps in the future this little bit of information will become obsolete. Anyways, it'll be a lot easier once that's, so you don't have to go through each individual one. Well, you'll probably have to at this point with the copy location, copy rotation. But oops, wrong one. Let me get the little one first. There we go. But when it comes to applying the action constraints, it'll be a little easier. Okay. Said all that to say this. It'll be easier. Okay. So now, when we move the controller bones, the finger bone follows. Should be the same deal over here. Yep. Oh, I messed up on this one, didn't I? Let me fix that. Boom, boom. So that one's first, and then that one. Let's see. Copy location. Copy rotation. There we go. All right. And if you move it around, that follows. Okay, good. Now, the action constraints. Pretty neat little gig. What you gotta do is we're gonna select same thing we did with the others. Select the control bone first, then the bone you're wanting to apply it to. Control Shift C and hit action. And now click over here. It automatically targeted to that bone. And we're going to go hand curl, because that's the only action we have right now. And the transform channel is going to be the scale Y. And we want the action start to be 1 and the end to be 2. You can see it moved. Because we need to change the target ranges. Now, this is going to be opposite, because the minimum is going to be 1, because that's 100%. So when this bone is at 1, that's the minimum. That means when this bone is at 1, the action is going to be at 1, at frame 1. But when this bone gets scaled down to, say, 0.5, the action is going to jump up to 2. So you grab that, scale it down, and you can see it working. So that's pretty awesome, isn't it? So let's go ahead and do that on the rest of them. Action. See what I was saying about the being able to copy the attributes. I guess that doesn't matter for these fingers because there's only 2 joints, but like on the thumbs, it'd be easier to copy for those 2 joints because it's both pointing at the same controller bone. So anyways, there we go. Start 1 and 2. Minimum 1. Maximum 0.5. And make sure you change this to scale Y. So there, scale that. So now if you selected both of them, scaled them, it's going to scale them next to each other because it's scaling all 3 axes, but you can see it controlling the finger curl because that's what the action is doing. So now, on multiple joints, same deal though. Grab the control bone first. And action, and curl, scale Y, 1 and 2. And let's go ahead and put that 1.5. Okay. Now what I was talking about before, you would copy this constraint to this guy, which normally you just select that and then shift select that and you'd hit Control C and it would copy, but that hasn't been integrated yet apparently. So anyways, action. So we'll just do each one by one. Just takes a little bit longer, but it'll work just the same in the end. Okay, so now scale that one and the thumb bends. Okay, so that's neat. And if you remember, we also made the bones go extreme to where they bent the opposite way. And you do that the same way you did this. Select the controller bone first and that, Control Shift C, action. Let's go ahead and collapse that one. Hand curl. But this time, instead of starting on 1 and ending on 2, it's going to start on 3 and end on 4, as you can see there. But now, the target range is going to be, positive. It's going to be 100% for the minimum, and then let's say 1.5 for the maximum. So now, scale it down. Okay, it's going off a location. You got to change it. Make sure you change it to scale. There we go. Oh, and another thing I kind of missed. Instead of world space, it needs to be local space. I haven't seen that be a problem yet here. Okay, that one's fine. Local space. But it's good practice to keep everything local. That's going to be on a local area. Okay, so now you can see I changed that to scale Y like it needed to be. And now, so if I scale it down, it bends, right? But if I scale it up, it goes the opposite. So there you go. It's like he's poking somebody. Boing, boing, right? Okay, do the same thing down here. Grab the control bone first, Control Shift C, action. Go and collapse that. And curl. Start on 3, end on 4. Minimum of 1, maximum of 1.5. And scale on the y-axis. Okay, so now scale down, scale up. There we go. And finally, we'll do the thumb. And I will show you one more thing, and that'll be, and then we'll go into another part. Same type of deal, but anyways. So grab the control bone first, and then that Control Shift C, same-o. Scale Y, start on 3. You can either type it in or just arrow up like so. It's a little faster if you just type it. And local space. Okay. And I'm not going to test it. Go ahead and do that one. Let's go ahead and collapse. And curl. Scale Y. 1.5. Okay. So now, scale down. Bends the thumb. And then straightens it out. There we go. Okay. So you do the same thing for the other hand. I won't waste your time right now. You can go ahead and do that on the side, as will I. Preparation for the next tutorial. But one thing to help be able to select the right one select the right bone without all these guys being in there. Let's go ahead and put those on their own layer. Since we've already got them set up with the mesh, we don't need to see them because we're controlling them with the control bones. So grab all those and hit M on your keyboard. It's going to bring up your bone layers. And let's go ahead and just put them on that second layer. So there we go. So now you scale it, bends the finger, and you rotate it, and it rotates. So there you go. You can make a nice little fist or something like that. Terminal rotate. Just rotate that control bone, and that original first bone follows along with it. So there you go. Nice, easy way to control exactly how a bone will deform the way you want it to. Okay, so that's like a hand. But it can also be used, this action constraint can also be used for other things, such as facial expressions. And further on that, you can make him form words, or what's called phonemes, where it's like oo, a, n, f, things like that, different poses that the mouth makes when forming words. So let's just do a quick simple one. Let's go into edit mode, and let's just add spacebar, add bone. Okay, Shift A. And let's just scale it down some. And we'll call this, we'll call it smile underscore frown. Smile frown. Okay. So now, let's go back to the action, the animation layout, and we'll zoom in on the face. And let's create a new action. We'll call this smile frown. Smile underscore frown. Okay. And let's back up to frame 1. Turn on the automatic keyframe insertion. Let's grab all these guys that's going to be used in this. And I, location, rotation, scale. And now let's go up to frame 2 and grab the corners of the mouth. Big old goofy smile. Like so. Let's see if we can't copy that to the other side. Yeah, that'll work. Let's make it even bigger. He's an alien. His face stretches when he's happy. Or whenever, you know. It doesn't have to be happy for his face to stretch. But anyways, it's stretchy. Okay, so there we go. Blank pose, big smile. Okay, now let's grab all these. Shift D. Move them over. 2, 3. Let's go to frame 4. And let's make him frown. He's sad now. So let's grab those and rotate them down. So. Woe begone expression. Let's copy that over to the other side. There we go. That doesn't really look sad, does it? Doesn't look like he's frowning too much. There we go. Okay. So blank, happy, blank, sad. There we go. The reason that has 2 different blanks in there is because it has to start from one and go to another. So if I just had the one blank frame here, and then had the smile here and the frown here, when I set up the controllers, you know, even if it started on 2 and went to 3, it'd be starting with a smile and going to a frown. So this is the way to set it to be starting with a blank expression, going to the smile or the frown. Okay, so back, let's go ahead and kill that out. And back to frame, let's turn off the automatic, back to frame 0. And back to default. So now, we're going to have this to where when you move it up, he's going to smile, you move it down, he's going to frown. So this is another thing where it would be handy to have the copy attributes, where you could copy that constraint, because everything's going to be pointing at this one controller. But no worries, we can do it one by one. Action, smile, frown. Location X, we don't want location X, we want location Y. Make sure it's location this time. Remember, before it was scale. This time is location. So it's going to start at 1, end at 2, and minimum 0, maximum 1. I believe that will be fine. So let's grab this and test it out. It's not doing it, is it? Everything else okay here? local space. There we go. There you go. That's the local space. It comes into play when you're location. So the scale didn't really change, as you could see on the hand, but it's very important when you're moving something in a location. So you move it up, he smiles. So, okay, let's go ahead and add the frown one as well. Let's grab that one first, and that one, Control-Shift-C, action, start at frame 3, end at frame 4. Minimum of 0, because that's where it's starting out. Maximum of -1, because he's moving down 1. So now, up smile. Oops. I'll make sure it's location Y. Okay. And local space. Gotta make sure you do that. So, it's still not working. Let's see what we got here. Oh, I didn't tell it which action to go. There we go. So now, up smile, down frown. There we go. So now you got to do that same thing with all of these mouth bones that we put on there. So let's go ahead and do that. Action. Start at 1, end at 2. Max 1. Local space. And again. Start at 3, end at 4. Minimum 0, maximum -1. Local space, location Y, and small frown. You can see you can do it in any order. It'll work whatever order you put it in. Smile, frown, smile, frown. There you go. I'll tell you what, I won't bore you with doing each individual one. I'll go ahead and pause my recording and do them myself, and then I'll turn it back on. You can see how it works. So, stand by. Okay, I got it all applied to all those mouth bones. And as you can see, you just move this guy up. Smiles big, move it down, frowns. Up, smile. So you can easily animate different facial expressions, and it's easier to animate, say, lip syncing or things like that. You can make actions to form like the phonemes, like I said before, and then you can just have like a row of all your controllers right here and animate those. Like when he goes ooh or something, you can have a O shape and move that one up, and you go ooh, and then say M, ooh mama or something, I don't know, nanu or something. You can just control it with the action controllers. So that's pretty neat stuff. Well, that's all I have for you today. So hope you learned something, hope you enjoyed yourself, and I'll catch you next time. Thanks a lot.